third or fourth attempt. When Mark woke up, chapter 43. When Mark woke up, there was just a hint of gray peeking through the window. He wasn't sure at first if the events of last night had been real or only a dream. As he sat up in bed, he realized that it had been real. His ribs hurt where Ralph had knocked him into the dirt. He hadn't gotten much sleep. Between Jess, the shootout, and the adrenaline, he had squeaked out maybe 3 hours. That would just have to do. As he had to get to Waco, he stood up and pulled on his clothes. When he walked into the kitchen, Jess had packed a small basket with food. "Good morning, J.W., she said with a smile. "Please don't." "Why not?" "Because I'm not John Wayne." "Geez, it's just a joke. Don't take it so seriously," she scolded. Mark took a deep breath in through his nose and blew it out of his mouth. "You don't understand. I can take the joke, but it only reinforces the falsehood people have about me, being some kind of hero. I'm not perfect. I'm just a man who makes mistakes. I made a bunch last night. Some of them came this close to getting me killed." He held his thumb and forefinger a fraction of an inch apart. "But you were so brave." "That's just it. I wasn't brave. I was scared shitless. I was only trying to save my own ass by bluffing," he argued. "I don't want these people to see me as a hero because one day I'll disappoint them. It'll only take one little mistake and get someone killed. Then they'll lose faith in this image they have of me. And what'll happen then? Will they finally realize they can only depend on themselves? Or will they lose all hope? Can you see why I don't want that responsibility?" "I can understand your concern, but no one expects you to be perfect. You weren't just trying to save yourself last night. If that were true, then like the sheriff said, you would have run the other way when you saw those people heading for the command post. You were putting others before yourself. That is why these people look up to you. That is why they trust what you say, because you always try to do the right thing. And that is one of the reasons I love you. But trying to do the right thing doesn't mean things will always work out right. It doesn't mean I know what's right. And most of all, it doesn't mean I'll be able to accomplish the right thing even if I do know what it is. I'm afraid people think that I do, and I can. They think I'm some kind of fearless leader who will never lead them astray. I'm not a leader, let alone a fearless one." "You're right. You're not a fearless leader. A fearless leader isn't what we need around here. What we need is a fearful leader. A leader who fears for our safety and well-being, and that is exactly what you are." "I am not a leader," Mark insisted. "Honey, a few minutes ago you told me that you're a man who makes mistakes, right?" "That's right." "Then is it possible you're mistaken right now?" "Yes, damn." Mark hated it when she turned his own words against him. Plus now he owed $2 more to his box, in addition to what he owed from last night. "I have to go. We'll talk more about this when I get back." "Okay, sweetheart." She kissed him goodbye. "You be careful." "I will," he said as he headed out the door with the basket and his gear. "We'll have a big celebratory dinner when you get back with your family." "That sounds great," he hollered over his shoulder. Everyone was ready to go when Mark got to his Jeep. They all loaded into their pre-assigned vehicles and headed out of the subdivision. Mark, with Ed riding shotgun, led the way. The first third of the route was the same one they had used to go to Austin earlier in the week. Because he was familiar with the roads, Mark was a little more relaxed than he would have been. "So, Ed, what did you do before the lights went out?" "I worked for the state. I was an auditor in the comptroller's office." "I see," Mark said. "And how did you and Letty meet?" "We met in college. She sat down beside me in philosophy my sophomore year, and I thought she was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. We started dating, and 6 months later we got married." "6 months? Kind of a short time to get to know each other, isn't it?" Mark asked. "Yeah, I guess. Letty got pregnant, and we sort of had to get married. She had to drop out of college to take care of the baby, so it was pretty rough on us for a while. Manny helped us out some. And when Robbie started kindergarten, Letty went back to school. She finished her degree a couple of years ago and got a good job with the city. Things were really starting to go good for us financially, and then this happened." "This is going to make things hard on a lot of people for a long time," Mark said as he started to wonder if Ed's whining was any better than Joe's. He decided to try and turn the conversation to a more positive note. "On the other hand, we're really lucky to live where we have room to grow our own food and to have good neighbors that we do. I guess," Ed agreed half-heartedly. Mark wondered if this guy guessed about everything. I appreciate your volunteering to ride up front with me, he told Ed. You're welcome, but I didn't really volunteer. Manny made me do it. He said I owed you for coming to get us. Mark looked over at his passenger. He didn't quite know what to make of Ed's confession. And how does that make you feel? God, I sound like a shrink, he thought. I guess he's right. Letty said he was anyway. I just don't like the thought of getting shot at, or worse yet, having to shoot at someone. You have a problem with defending yourself? I don't know if I could kill somebody, if that's what you mean. But you were in the reserves. You must have known that you might have to go to war. I never gave it much thought. I just joined to help pay for school after Letty got pregnant, Ed explained. Mark, all of a sudden, didn't feel so good about having someone like Ed riding shotgun. He drove a few miles without saying anything. It started misting, and Mark pulled the Jeep over to put the top up. While he was stopped, he told Ed he needed to discuss some things with Gunny, and would he mind switching places for a while. Ed seemed happy for any reason not to be in the front, so Mark radioed for Ted to bring the old war dog up to him. Once Gunny and Ed had switched places and some of the others had used the opportunity to relieve themselves from too much morning coffee, the convoy was on its way again. Mark explained to Gunny about Ed's reluctance to defend himself. Gunny ranted about how the kid had no balls and little brains. He also had some choice words about Manny for putting them in a bad position. It seemed that the louder Gunny got, the harder the rain fell. After a while, Gunny calmed down. Unfortunately, the rain didn't lighten up with him. Mark got down to business. Ever since those idiots attacked Ralph's house, something has been bothering me. I couldn't figure it out until after we were attacked last night, though. The attackers watched us before they attacked. They had plans. Fortunately, they didn't work, but they weren't just random attacks. None of our defenses are really geared toward a planned, well-orchestrated, multi-pronged attack. Have you thought about that? Oh, yeah. But I thought we'd have more time before we had to worry about it, Gunny said. You mean you knew something like this could happen? Of course. If it hadn't happened sooner or later, I'd have been surprised. Then why haven't you trained us for it? Mark demanded. Because everybody has to learn to walk before they can run, Gunny explained. And I didn't think it would happen this fast. So what are we going to do about it now? We've got to start patrolling outside the subdivision to see if anyone's watching us. I see. Any ideas about how we're going to do that? I got plenty of ideas, but we have to figure out how we can cover all the posts if we pull the best guys off guard duty, which are the ones I want on patrols, he explained. The two men discussed various options. However, each one had a downside. The best option they came up with was to eliminate one of the shifts and go to 3 8-hour shifts. Gunny didn't like keeping guys on normally boring guard duty for that long, but it seemed to have the least negatives. Maybe if they got more men to sign up for guard duty, they could go back to 4 shifts. Mark had another question, but he wasn't sure that he really wanted the answer. He decided that not knowing was worse than the truth. What do you think is the worst case scenario that we might have to defend ourselves against? A division of Marines with artillery and air support, Gunny said, looking Mark in the eye. I'm serious, Mark said, as if he was fussing at his son. So am I, Gunny shot back. If the government goes any more wacko, they may try to force us into shelter camps with the military. What could we do? Against that kind of firepower? Surrender or die. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. Let me rephrase my question. What is the worst case that we could defend ourselves against? I'd say 300 or 400 MZBs with light automatic weapons. Any more than that, we might be able to repel, but the cost in lives wouldn't be worth it. How could we defend against so many? We have less than 100 guards, Mark said. The defender's advantage is quoted as being 3-1, but in some cases it can be 7 or 8-1. I see. So how many would we lose against 300? If we knew they were coming, maybe only a dozen or so. If they hit us by surprise, it could be 50 to 100 or more. It depends on how many casualties they're willing to take. And you think 50 to 100 would be worth it? Mark asked in disbelief. If it saved everyone else in our houses and gardens? Yes. Mark was quiet for several minutes, thinking about what Gunny had said. He couldn't disagree with the old man. They had a place they could live for quite a while if they had to, and it would be worth it to him to trade his life so his kids could have a future. He wondered how they could keep the worst from happening and asked, We need to get everyone trained, including the women and older kids, and have at least some kind of weapon for each of them. Then we have to make Silver Hills as uninviting as possible. How are we going to do that? I don't rightly know, Karate Man, but the way things are going to hell in a handbasket, we'd better figure it out real quick.